So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Kristen Cummings. I'm the Associate Director of Marketing Communications for Residential and Hospitality Services. I will be the host this evening. I will introduce the presenters for the room selection presentation. We have Melissa Dunlap, who's the Associate Director of Housing Occupancy for Residential Services. We have Trina Sokolowski, Senior Director of College Houses and Academic Services. And we have Ted Morin, the Associate Director of Meal Plans for Penn Dining. So each of these individuals is going to present to you tonight. They will have lots of valuable information to share with you. And I am going to start off by handing it over to Trina.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome again. I am here to share with you about the communities that you get to live in as returning students. So you are most likely familiar with living on campus so far in your experience, and you have more options to choose from next year. And so uh, lots of different ways for you to learn more about what's out there and where you might find the best fit. I think one of the most important things to remember about the college house communities is that while each one has its own kind of style, its own kind of approach to community and helping students connect, the thing that we all have in common, all of the houses have in common, is that the faculty that live in, the staff, they all care immensely and are enthusiastic about supporting you, helping you connect with each other, helping you connect to opportunities at Penn and beyond. And so, regardless of where you live, you're going to find an amazing spot where there are people that care about you in Chaz and pretty much all of the departments that we work with. And so, um, so as you know, college houses are our college house communities are places where it's more than just a place to sleep. It's more than just a place where you're keeping your things. Your college house is really a spot where you can feel comfortable, where you can feel like living on campus is truly a part of your whole Penn experience. It's not just about classes, it's not just about um, the work that you're doing. It's about having a good spot to relax, having a good spot to be able to spend time with friends, be able to meet people, just have quiet time when you need it. You've got that spot to study and to explore ideas and be able to be active as you like. Um, College houses are places where we kind of try to make this big university feel small. And so through regular activities, weekly kind of meetups and social activities, discussion groups, study groups, stuff like that. These are things that you have likely experienced this year living on campus. If you're living on campus this year, this is stuff that you're likely experiencing, and then you get more of that with other opportunities in the upper class options, and so lots of ways to really either continue kind of the things that you're enjoying this year, or build new friendships and add to your support network along the way. I want to highlight that one of the things that's exciting, especially exciting for college houses and academic services this year, is that we have launched a brand new redesigned website. And so the address is on the screen that you can see there. It's collegehouses.upenn.edu. If you go there, you'll be able to explore all of the college houses and learn more about the some of the activities, learn more about the faculty and staff, the different ways that each house strives to help students feel connected and that they belong on campus here. How that college house can be a part of your experience. And so I encourage you to take a look. There's also lots of information there about about lots of things that you need to know when it comes to your college house experience. So check that out. If we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so we have, so in terms of what's available to you in a college house, you have three different ways to think about your college house and the experience that you want to have. We have first our program communities, our four-year college houses, and our upper class college houses. So I'm just going to talk briefly about each of those options. And so if we can go to the next slide. So first, talking about our program communities or PCs, these are smaller areas. Some of them are specific to a floor in a college house or a set of rooms in a college house. And these are spaces where students can live together and have some shared activities or shared experiences based on a particular thematic area, a particular cultural interest or experience, or some kind of academic area. And so again, the website that I just mentioned, if you take a look there, you will find more details and descriptions about all of the program communities that are available for upper class students, and the types of things that they offer, and the types of faculty and staff that are involved in each. We've got some examples that you can see on the screen. We have our Jewish cultural studies community. We have several communities focused on different areas of the arts. Our Muslim life community, Rodin leadership, our film studies community in Gregory College House is and is an example of a house that community that is not specifically tied to rooms, but is a extremely robust and vibrant community focused on film study. And Black and Latin in the Americas is an example of a community that has a particular focus on Black and Latin diaspora and cultural experiences and exploration. And we have many more opportunities for being able to connect and engage with folks that are interested in similar topics, and kind of seeking the same types of opportunities. The program communities are open. There's an application process for these, and any student who is eligible to apply to participate in room selection can apply for any of the program communities. So they are open to all students. I think that's important to remember, especially thinking about all of the wide range and array of communities that we have to offer, all of the different topics and interests. Even if you just have an interest in a topic, and you're curious about that community, join in, apply. I encourage you all to apply. So the communities are open to all students who are eligible to participate in room selection. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, so our four-year houses, I did see that there were some questions in the Q&A about if Lauder College House especially is available, and I know that was answered, and now you see it here for sure, as well as how we were able to respond to your question. So our four-year college houses, these are house communities that include students in their first year all the way up to senior year. In the four-year houses, they're built on really strong traditions of leadership building, lots of opportunities for upperclassmen to connect with first-year students, and different ways of engaging students through kind of leadership and other types of opportunities. And so our four-year college house offerings: W.E.B. Du Bois College House, Lauder College House, as we talked about, and Mayer within Stouffer College House. So Stouffer Mayer is the building that is within that college house that is available for students in all four academic years. And they each have their own kind of style and approach to community building and helping you all have a great experience while you're living at Penn. Okay, we're gonna go to upper class houses. And so so you can see the listing there. This year we have Gregory College House is going going to be an upper class house. These are all houses that are available to students in their second through senior year. So we have Gregory College House, we have Gutman College House, Harrison, Harnwell, and Roden college houses. Um, all of them, all of those houses are available to students in their second through senior year. I will say Gregory is the home of our film culture program. We have program communities as well in Harrison, Harnwell, and Roden, and so lots of really good options if you are interested in that. And then we have Gutman College House is suite style. And so, thinking about kind of room types and the types in Gutman, there are up to six. There are some 6-person units, 5, 4, and 3-person units there. But yeah, so you can check, and again, you can check out all of these options and the communities that are offered there and created there from our website. All right. And so I am going to turn it over to Melissa to talk a little bit more about the room selection timelines and details there. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Um, I have a lot to cover today. Uh, During my portion of the presentation, we'll be going over what to expect for rising third and fourth year students. We'll be going over the application as a whole, what it means to build a roommate group and why it's important, roommate preferences, the different available college houses, room types and rent rates, and room selection and time slots. So it's a lot for us to cover. So let's dive right in. So for the rising third and fourth year process, um, this process is specific to our current second year and third year students who will be returning to live on campus for the 2026-2027 academic year. The process for those students to express their intent to live on campus was actually this past November. The application was open November 10th through the 26th. We look at the number of beds that we have available for this population and the number of applicants, and then we decide if we need to have a wait list or not. This year, we did not need to use a wait list for room for this population. So all of the students that applied in that November period were activated for room selection. And what that means is they are given an opportunity to participate. They still have to log in during the room selection application and complete the rest of their application. Now you might be thinking, well, I fall into this population. I'm a rising second year or third year student, but I did not finish the application. Don't worry. You can still fill out an application. We'll see how many students apply. We'll let you know if you're eligible to participate in room selection and get a time slot. The process does move really quickly, so you'll get information very early on in the process before the selection actually starts. And even if you're not activated to select a room at the start of the selection phase, there is a possibility that you might be activated later on in the process. I think that's about all that I need to talk about for that. If you have any questions about that, just be sure to put it in the Q&A and we can talk about it at the end. So the room selection application as a whole, and this is both for the rising third and fourth year population that I just spoke about and our rising second year population. It opens for everybody on Monday, January 26th. And I know some of you might know that we have a major snowstorm coming this weekend on Sunday and potentially Monday. That will not impact this application opening. The application's set to happen electronically. So if the university's closed, the application will still be opening. So don't worry about that. It's important for you to know that our application is not first come, first serve. It opens on the 26th of January, closes on February 9th. You don't have to worry about filling it out right away. If you're like me and know that if I don't fill it out on the first day, I'll never remember to do it by the 9th, please do that. But there is really no benefit to you filling it out earlier. Um, so inside the application, there are some things that you're going to come across that are really important for you to pay attention to and answer truthfully. The first is the lifestyle profile questions. Those are the questions that we use to determine who your roommate could be. Now you might think to yourself, I know that I want to live in a quad and I already have three people that I want to live with. This doesn't pertain to me. It does. There are situations that pop up where some people might need to leave the room, whether it's somebody goes on a leave of absence unexpectedly, somebody gets hired to be an RA after the original part of the process, and those students leaving for leave of absences or for RAs create an opening in that room, and we need to fill that bed space. So what we do is we use the answers from those lifestyle profile questions to help us figure out which student that we can put into that room would be the best match with the students that are already in that space. So please read over the questions, look at the different answer options you have, and answer it as truthfully as you can. Then there's the terms and conditions. The terms and conditions are really important. It's a legal document. It talks about everything that you need to know with living on campus housing. If you need to cancel, if you're a rising third or fourth year student, you can cancel. If you are terminating early because of a leave of absence or something, it goes through how to do that. It just talks about all the different rules with living in on-campus housing. We then have the program communities section of the application, which Trina already touched on. The program community section, everybody will hit the first page where the very first question you get is, are you interested in a program community, yes or no? If you answer no, you'll skip over the rest of the questions. If you answer yes, you'll then tell us which program community you want to live in, and then you'll have the essay that you need to fill out. Then there's the dining plan section, which Ted will go over in a little bit. Then there's the roommate preference question and roommate groups. So the first thing is the roommate's preference question, and that is for students who don't necessarily have a roommate group that they're already committed to living with. And the question that we ask is, do you wish to live with somebody that has the same legal sex as you, or do you have no preference? And it's really important that you answer that question truthfully because we use that to determine who we're going to be putting into your room, whether they match your same legal sex because that's what you requested, or if it doesn't matter. And then for roommate groups, this is kind of similar to what you already went through if you're a current first year student with your application that you filled out in May. In May, you were only allowed to give us one roommate preference. Now you can give us up to five. We can hold a roommate group of six in total, and that's because there are six-person rooms in both Lauder and Gutman. We do recommend that when you're creating a roommate group, that you try to stick with about four roommates total, because quads are our most prevalent room type for the rising second year class. If you are really interested in Lauder and Gutman, you can go into your process with the 5 or 6 person roommate group, but know that you might need to change your roommate group number if the spaces fill up early in the process. So just think about that with your roommate group and be flexible to how things are going to break out. Okay, I'm ready for the next slide, Kristen. Roommate groups. I already mentioned you can select anywhere from 1 to 5 other students to form a roommate group with. For roommate groups, you need to create a login. I know it sounds silly, but that login helps you match up with the other people in your group. So you're going to pick one person to create a unique name for the group and then password and share that with everybody and make sure they join the group. Now, I do want to tell you, we can see what the roommate group names are. Some of them are very funny. Some of them are very inappropriate. Just know we can see them. Um, when you're creating your roommate group, you have to make sure that everybody answered that legal sex question that I mentioned previously with the same answer. Either everybody in your roommate group has said they have no preference, or everybody has said they want to live with somebody that has the same legal sex as them. And the reason that's important is while you might be able to create your roommate group with people answering that question differently, by the time you get to selection, you won't be able to select a room with people that the answer to that question doesn't match. Then you'll have to get people to log in really quickly to change their answers so that your entire roommate group's profiles will match. And it could delay the process and have people selecting the room that you might have been interested in. So make sure when you're sharing the group name and password that you're also making sure everybody is on the same page with the answer to that roommate preference question. Now, roommate groups are open the entire time of room selection. So you can create a roommate group when you're filling out your application, and that roommate group can change constantly throughout the process up till the point that you select a room. And the reason that's important is because as we get later on into the process, you might have a group of 3 or 4 people, but you might only see a double available in your house that like say you want to live in Harrison. There might only be doubles left. This is a hypothetical situation, but you can talk amongst your group and figure out we have a group of 4, there's 2 doubles, we're going to split into 2 so that we can each select our own double. So just know that there is flexibility with your roommate groups throughout the process. All right, next slide. I already talked a lot about the roommate preference question. I'm not going to really go into that a whole lot anymore. So I'm going to skip this slide, but if you have any questions, feel free to bring them up. So in terms of available college houses, Trina did touch on this during her portion of the presentation. It's just really important for you to know that for next academic year, Lauder will be transitioning from a first-year house to a 4-year house. And that Gregory, while this year it's a 4-year house, next year it will only be an upper class house. Those are the 2 biggest changes that are happening. Um, if you are a current Lauder resident, you might be thinking, oh, well, I should get priority to live in Lauder next year. I will be able to participate in return to house because I noticed that that's a phase of room selection that we're actually going to talk about later. Lauder residents will not be able to participate in return to house. And the reason for that is Lauder is currently a first-year house. When students are able to participate in return to house, it's when it's an upper class house that will be an upper class house the next year. So it's not the same comparison. So just keep in mind, if you're a current resident in Lauder, you will not be able to apply to stay in Lauder. You will be able to apply, but you won't be able to select until the move to any house process, which we'll get to in a little bit. Next slide, please. So room types and room rates. We have a lot of room types in our system. And for all of the different room types that we have, it's important to know that there are only 2 rent rates. Rooms that have a kitchen where no students share a bedroom are always at our higher price point. An example of that is a 4-bedroom quad, a 3-bedroom triple, a single apartment. Rooms that don't have a kitchen or spaces that have a kitchen where there is students that share a bedroom, they're all at the lower uh, rent rate. So that would be our double 2 bedrooms that we have in the high rises where there's just 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, our 1-bedroom doubles or 3-bedroom quads. It's important to note that our rent rates for the 26-27 academic year have not been set yet. So all throughout our application for housing and selection process, you will see this current year's rent rates listed to just kind of show you what you could expect in terms of whether it's the higher rent rate or the lower rent rate. And then there's also a note that says each year the Board of Trustees votes to increase rent between 3 and 5%. So you can look at what the prices are this year and then figure out the calculation for what the 3 to 5% difference is. Then the trustees usually meet late February, early March, and we send an email out in mid-March letting everybody know what the rent for their specific room is for the upcoming year. All right, next slide. Time slots. So time slots are really important because that is when you're going to be able to log in and select your room. So room selection, all applications have to be completed by 1 p.m. on February 9th. Everybody that completes an application by 1 p.m. on February 9th will receive a time slot. It's important to know if you are a current first-year student, if you don't submit an application for housing, we will submit one for you and you will still get a time slot because you are required to live in on-campus housing. There is a 2-year or 4-semester residency requirement for all students. So our time slots, they're calculated one way. So if you're doing the return to house process, which is largely the phase of room selection that's for our rising third and fourth year population because they're in houses that are eligible to be returned to. We create time slots using the graduation date and then the number of semesters that the students lived into their return to house. For the move to any house process, which is the phase of selection that most of our first year students participate in, it's just based on class year. So for return to house, there's actually 2 parts of return to house. There's room retention, and then for everybody that is not interested in retaining their room, there's return to house. So this year, we were actually able to email all students that are a rising third or fourth year student that is in a room that is eligible to be retained for next year. So when you're filling out your application, you're going to also see a section that says your room is eligible to be retained. Are you interested in retaining it? If you say yes, you'll get a retained room time slot, which is actually a little bit earlier than return to house. The retained room slot is over the weekend, and then return to house starts Monday. If a student applies for housing and they are not eligible for the return to house process, they will only get a time slot for move to any house, and those time slots won't be released until February 26th. And that's because move to any house rooms will not be eligible to be selected until March 2nd. So we give you a little bit of time to plan what you're going to do. All right, I'm ready for the next slide. I'm sorry, there's so much information and trying to sort through everything that needs to be said is a little overwhelming. So things to consider when you're choosing who you want to live with next year. 99% of our rising second year students have a suite mate. You might be thinking, what's up with that other 1%? Why don't they have a suite mate? Those are students that have approved accommodations, that have met with Wine Garden and have gone through the process that they need to ensure that they have a single room because that's what they need to meet their medical situation. There are more quad occupancy rooms in our inventory than anything else, which I touched upon a little bit earlier. So when you choose to enter room selection with 3 other students and creating a group of 4, it will open up your options much wider than what you would have had otherwise. And if you're a rising second year student, do not plan on getting a single apartment or one of our single rooms unless you have an approved medical accommodation for that. Those rooms get taken very early in the process. So we recommend that you try to go in with a roommate group. And there are usually very few, if any, available at the start of the move to any house process. All right, Kristen, next slide, please. So, phases of room selection. Sure, you're tired of hearing me saying room selection, and I'm sorry for that, but the first phase is program communities. Now, there's something new that we're doing this year. We have never done it before. In years past, If you apply to a program community, you were assigned by the housing occupancy team to the room that you would be living in for next year. The past several years, we have gotten a lot of pushback from students. They weren't happy with this process. So we were able to figure out a way to allow students that are in this program community, in program communities, the opportunity to select their own rooms. So starting on February 19th, anybody that's in a program community will be they'll be told what their time slot is. They can log in. When they log into My Home at Penn, the only rooms that they will see are the rooms within the program community that they applied for. They will have an opportunity to select the space that works for them. This is new. We're really excited for it. We're hoping it goes really well, goes over really well with the students. So you'll have to let us know if you're in the program community and you self-select. After that, we have room retention, which is only for the students that are in rooms that are eligible to be retained. So in order for a room to be eligible to be retained, it has to not be in a program community. It has to be in an upper class house. And the current occupants of the room has to be a rising third or fourth year. Um, can't remember if I said single occupancy rooms are not eligible. Only multiple occupancy spaces are eligible for room retention. So if you're in a single apartment, unfortunately, you are not eligible to retain that room. That happens usually Friday through Monday. Room retention is February 20th through February 22nd. Then we have our return to house process. That happens February 23rd through the 25th. And you'll see here that there is fill a unit and fill a bed. So there are two parts to both return to house and move to any house. Fill a unit means when you are selecting a room, you and your roommate group members must completely fill that room in order for it to be selected. So if you're in a group of four, you can only pick a completely empty quad. Or if you're looking at Lauder and Gutman and you see a room with only one student in it, you can pick that room because the remaining four of you will fill that five-person room. Um, and you might think, how could it be partially filled at that point? It could be partially filled through students that have an approved accommodation. Um, but but no, usually this early in the process, there are not many partially filled rooms. So you're either you're most likely just picking a completely vacant room. Then we have the return to house fill a bed, which doesn't matter how many vacant rooms there are in the room. There could be six vacant rooms, and you could have two people in your group, and you can put the two people in your group in that room. The other four remaining beds could be picked up at any point by somebody else throughout the process. Um, and then for move to any house, it's the same thing. There's fill a unit and fill a bed. So for move to any house, the largest group that's represented in this is our rising second year students because most of the houses they live in are not eligible to be returned to for the next year. Um, yeah, I think that's about all there is for the phases of room selection. Is there another slide? I went through what room retention is, so we can go to the next slide. I went through return to house, and I bet you I went through the next slide, which is move to any house. Wow, I just really got ahead of myself. What's our next slide here? I went through fill a unit and fill a bed. Wow, I'm really just on my game today. Um, all right. So each student, regardless of roommate group, will receive a time slot. And you can have the person with the earliest time slot select your room. So say the four people that are the panelists for this group are all in a roommate group. My time slot is at 5:30 at night, but Trina's happens to be at 3:10 in the afternoon. And Trina can log in for our group and select for all four of us, which is great. And then Trina will get an email that says everybody's been assigned and it'll be good. Everybody will be okay. Um, After the suite or apartment is chosen and the eligible student has assigned the beds, if anybody else in the roommate group tries to log in, all they will see is their roommate assignment. Once the rooms are assigned, your room selection is complete, and you have your bed in place for fall 26. Throughout the room selection phase, you will see a lot of notes, notes about rent rates and what room types are associated with which rent rate. You'll see notes about uh, bed space lettering. Um, if you see like just dash A or dash B, that generally means that it's a private room. If you see a letter and a number like dash A1 or dash A2, that generally means it's a shared space. So it's really important that you pay attention to the lettering that comes after the room number, because not only are you selecting a room, but you're selecting a bed space within that room. So make sure everybody understands which bed space they're assigned to. All right, what do we got next? It's Ted. So I've covered a lot. I'm sure you still have a lot of questions. You can start filling in the Q&A as you want, but I do strongly encourage you to listen to Ted as well. Thank you for listening to me, everyone.
Thanks, Melissa. Hey, appreciate everyone taking the time to come to this info session. I think starting to gather the information is hopefully disabusing you of some of the fears or concerns you have, and also demonstrate that there's staff here that are absolutely happy to walk you through the process. So what am I doing here as part of this housing application process? When you are going through the My Home at Penn process, as Melissa touched on before, you will have the opportunity to enroll in a dining plan. So for all current first-year students, that is rising second-year students for next year, you will be selecting your dining plan before you are able to complete your housing application, and you're selecting between one of three dining plans. You can choose one of the two first-year plans you have, or the new second-year plan, which is what I would say the majority of second-year students do. For any rising third and fourth year students, that is current second year students or third year students that might be on this presentation, you will have the option to select your plan. So if you know you want to live in housing with us, you know you want to dine with us, you have that option to complete that application for both, and then you're all set for next year. If you decide that you don't want to dine with us next year, or you just need more time to decide, that's completely okay. You have the opportunity, if you're not required to enroll in a plan, to select no dining plan at this time. We'd rather have you do that than make a decision now on impulse and then have to deal with the consequences later. Just select no dining plan, and you will have plenty of time to select your dining plan later. Like I said, this is just an opportunity to complete your housing application and your dining application all in one process, if that's what you want to do to move forward. And reminder, you can change your dining plan during the fall and spring change periods. So quick PSAs for anybody on this info session that has a dining plan now. Right now, the spring dining change period is open through February 4th, and you have an opportunity to make a dining plan change. If you want to be on a different plan for the fall and the spring, do that now. And I remind everyone of this because we recognize that you're making a selection now. Like I said, you want to be on a dining plan, but not sure which one. That's okay. You can change at a later date. And if you're not sure at all and you're a rising third or fourth year student, just hold off, ask us questions, find out your options. There's no deadline to enroll. There's plenty of time to do that later. We'll move on to the next slide now, just to talk about a couple of features moving forward. So as I talked about, as a rising second year student, you're going to have a year under your belt. You do have this opportunity to select this third plan, which is called the second year 156 plan. So to give you an idea, if you take the meal swipes associated with this plan, it's about half your meals. What that means is the other half of your meals you're on your own. This is just to be a bank of meals available for you to have and draw down upon for those times that you don't want to shop, cook, or clean. And then this is absolutely compatible with doing meals on your own, dining out, cooking for yourself if you wind up getting a kitchen as part of your housing for next year. It's absolutely compatible with that second year dining plan. And like I said, most second year students do choose this plan, but you don't have to. If you like your first year plan, you can stay with that one. In fact, I was just before this presentation dealing with a second year student that said, I can keep a first year plan, right? Absolutely, you still have that option. or you can switch to that second year plan. As I mentioned, rising third and fourth year students can choose a plan if they want to. They can choose no plan if they want to. But as an advisement, there are more plans you can choose from. So if you like the first year plan or the second year plan, you can keep one of those, or there are smaller plans that you can choose if you want to supplement whatever you're doing on your own, whether that's cooking for yourself or taking out, getting takeout. There are plans that are going to work for you. And we even have hundreds and hundreds of students that live off campus that have a dining plan, because when they're on campus, they want something quick, convenient. And that third bullet point there, convenience, variety, community. When we ask students that say, hey, you had the opportunity to not select a plan, you enrolled, we'd love to have you. What were some of the things that you're thinking about as you chose to enroll? It's these three overwhelmingly. Convenience, number one. You're going to be on campus. You're going to be busy during those times that you don't have time to run to the store or run all the way back to your apartment. Come dine with us, and we have a plan that's going to meet your needs. You continue to have select access to culinary sessions. Actually, I think we have one kicking off, if not tonight, then next week. I got to check our events calendar. That, these amazing opportunities with guest chefs and all of our culinary teams that you'll continue to have access to. So that's just some of the fun stuff that's going to continue moving forward. That's all I had to share right now. Really, I wanted to drive home. You're going to see this as part of the application, so don't be surprised. Rising second year students, you'll be selecting your plan, and then you'll be good to go for next year. Rising third and fourth year students, you'll have that option, and there's definitely plenty of time to ask questions. We'd rather have you do that. There's no deadline to enroll, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. Speaking of answering questions, the final slide is we're just moving to our contact information, and I'm going to pass it back to Kristen to sort of go over some of the Q&A that we've been holding off on so that everyone can benefit.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks, Ted and Melissa and Trina. I have noted a number of questions throughout the presentation, so I'm going to go ahead and ask them to our lovely presenters. So one of the first things I saw a couple questions about this. So Melissa, this is one's going to go to you. I know that the students are wondering, how are they going to know what rooms or room types are available in the different college houses as they're preparing to select rooms, and can they see what rooms are being going out of the inventory or still in the inventory?
So this is the first year we're actually piloting this tool. Where you'll be able to log into My Home at Penn, and you'll be able to see what the inventory is. And it's a live view of the inventory. So say you know that you want to live in Harnwell. You can log in and you can select Harnwell College House and whatever room type that you're interested in, and it will tell you what room number is available in that room type, how many beds are available. So if it's a quad, it could say anywhere from 1 to 4 beds available. So you'll be able to use that as a tracking tool. Generally, that will open on the first day of selection, which would be the room retention process. You'll be getting more information about it in email. So just keep an eye out for that. But we're hoping that it's a really useful tool that will kind of help set expectations for students and what they can anticipate to get.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have another question that it could be a Melissa or Trina question. So I'm going to pose it and see what you guys can decide who's the best to answer. If we are part of a program community right now, such as M&T Freshman Community, is there a way to continue that?
Melissa, I would love to start, and then, yep, got you. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for asking about program communities. And first, I think it's awesome when we hear that, especially in a first year community, that the experience has been so positive that you want to continue being a community. That's fantastic. So my recommendation for you is if you're currently in a first year community, there is no, specifically to M&T, but really to most of the first year program communities, there are no part two, so to speak. So there for the first year communities, they really are intended to be specific to the first year, to meet kind of the transition as you're going to getting ready to support you in kind of your first year, particularly those that are in academic-based communities. And so there is no official second year community that's a companion to the first year. That said, there are still ways to stay engaged as a community. There are still ways to do that. So what I recommend is looking at the current options, the available options for program communities. And if there's one that relates to your interests, if there's one that you want to be a part of together, highly recommend you all applying for that. And I think that's one way of continuing to get the engagement of a program community. You get a little something new with perhaps a new topic or a new spin on your current experience to kind of build on that. And you get to, stay together. For those of you that are accepted, it's an application process. So those who fill out the application and are accepted will stay together. You can also apply. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of questions about roommate groups. We've talked a lot about roommate groups and processes. You can also apply for housing in one of the phases as in groups, and, kind of coordinate that way. And so I encourage you, you cannot, it sounds like if you're interested in staying together, you got lots of good connections. And so it should be a good, little activity to be able to kind of talk through and make a plan together. Just being able to live in a house together, kind of make some decisions that way. I will say for future reference, so if you thinking about, when you are into your second year, if you are in a community and you want to, there are ways of continuing or starting new program communities. We do have our student designed process. That process concluded in fall semester. And so that is not an option right now, but the new process for the following academic year will come up in the fall. And so more information about that will come. But that is to say we do have options for students who have ideas for communities to be able to create them. More information on that for the next cycle of housing will come next year. One last note, if you are in a current first year program community and you want to be able to find ways, maybe they're not room specific or they're not room selection specific, but you do want to find ways to stay connected through programming or through other engagement, please email that College Houses and Academic Services email address. I read those emails. I'm one of the people that responds to those emails. And so if you are interested in that, please reach out, because if it's not something that happens through the official room selection process, there are still ways that you can stay engaged through programming and shared experiences in the college houses. And I'm somebody that can help you with that. So thank you for listening to all of that. Melissa, anything to add from a room selection standpoint? Thanks,
Got it
everybody.
all. You got
All
it
right.
all.
So there are a couple of questions, Melissa, regarding how time slots are assigned. Are they assigned like weighted in some way? Do upper class students have more weight? Can you explain a little bit about that process?
Sure. So ultimately, yes, upper class students do get priority throughout room selection. Students are assigned a number of points, like I had mentioned earlier. The first grouping of points they get is their class year. And the second is if they're returning to house, how many semesters they've lived in that house. So then we look at the number of points each student has, and we randomize time slots within each point grouping. So say somebody has 10 points. We look at everybody that has 10 points, randomize that group, and then they get the first batch of time slots. Then we look at everybody who has 9 points. We randomize that group and then issue time slots based on that randomization, and we keep going until we get to the lowest number of points.
Awesome. I'm going to jump on that with another time slot question. Is when do time slots occur? Are they during class times? What if nobody in the roommate group is available to select during the designated time slot?
So based on historic information, time slots generally start at 1 in the afternoon. Um, and they can go as late as 9 o'clock at night. Um, we have a number of different options available to students. We have a proxy process where, say, I'm the person who has the earliest time slot in my group, but I'm not available to pick at the time slot that I have, but somebody else in my group is eligible to pick. We can sign them up to be a proxy so that the time slot would transfer to that other group member, and that group member could log in and select a room for the rest of the group. Um, there's also we we have a process where if nobody in the group is eligible to select, the housing occupancy team collects as much information as we can from the group about what the student might want. And we could try to pick a room for them, but there's no guarantees that we'll be able to get what their top choice is. Or we find a lot of students will just choose to wait until they are actually able to select a room. So the time slot doesn't mean that is the only time you're able to select. It's just the beginning of when you're able to select. So say if your time slot is 1 o'clock, but you're in class until 1:30, and you feel comfortable waiting until 1:45 when you're back to your room and able to get on your computer, that's fine. You can log in at 1:45 and pick. It's just the beginning of when you are able to select. It's not this is the only time. So there's a lot of different options out there for you. And if you ever have any questions, you can email living@upenn.edu and we can help walk you through whatever scenario is best for you.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to pivot again just with time slots. There's a couple more questions that I've saved, which were about reformulating roommate groups. So up until what point can, like, two parts of the question that I'm going to ask, because I'm formulating a couple questions into one, but it's how, up until what point can they reorg their roommate group depending on room types available? And if a roommate group, can a roommate group during their time slot assign themselves to like a bigger group to two separate rooms during their time slot? So it's two questions, sorry.
Okay. So you can reconfigure your roommate group up until the point that you select your room. There is a lot of flexibility there for you. Um, Unfortunately, a roommate group is not able to except like I the four of us can't be in a roommate group and select two rooms and pick that way. The roommate group will have to break up to select the spaces. You can only pick one room at a time when you're actually involved in selection.
Okay, perfect. And then Trina, and this may be a little Trina, Melissa, but also if I'm applying for an RA position, but also must submit a backup housing arrangement, meaning they got to submit the application, what happens if they get the RA position and are supposed to be part of a suite of three people or more? Does that mean those roommates are living with one fewer person, or what are the next steps?
Do you mind if I grab this, Trina? Um,
Go
so
for
we
it.
actually work pretty closely with Chaz to align the timelines for our process. Um, I believe for this year's process, students that have applied to be an RA should know by late February if they have been accepted for a position or not. And the student population that this mostly impacts is our rising second years who generally aren't able to select until March 2nd. So that should give people time to figure out alternate roommate groups or whatever. However, we know that after that initial acceptance, there will be some turnover and there will be people getting RA positions well throughout the rest of the spring semester and through the summer months, which could create vacancies in rooms. Um, we will not just leave a vacancy there because somebody has left. We will fill that space. Um, Now you might be thinking, oh my goodness, I can't live with a random person. What can I do? If you have a friend um, who is interested in moving into that vacancy, we have a room change process that happens after room selection, where students can apply to move into vacancies that are created, whether it be through RA selection, where students leave because they became an RA or for leave of absence. There are different options that are available to you. Um, or if you're comfortable with having somebody placed into your room based on your life on the lifestyle profile question answers, that's great. And we will fill the space as we can.
Thanks for that. I think we're down to the last couple questions. Um, I'm going to start with the one at the top, which is when is the last day a student can cancel a housing application themselves without getting fined? Now, I know we have those dates on our website, but I just wanted to ask it live here as well.
So it's really important to know that our current first year class or rising second years, as they've been referred to throughout this presentation, are not eligible to cancel their application or their room. So the answer to this question is only applicable to our rising third and fourth year population. If you're just canceling an application and you never had a room assignment, don't worry, there is no fee associated with that. If you are canceling a room, you have up until February 28th to cancel your room without having any penalty. After February 28th, so starting on March 1st, is when the cancellation fee structure starts,
Perfect.
which is $250 for the first part of the cancellation fees. And it
And yeah,
increases as you progress throughout the summer.
correct. Right. So please make sure to check our website. You can use the search function to look up cancellation and you can get all those details there.
Mhm.
The next to last question is, do students who apply through the Weingarten Center get a time slot as well? Do they have the option to have a roommate group?
I'm so happy you chose this one because if you didn't, I was going to chime in and say, can I please answer this one? Um, so this is our first year ever that we are piloting self-selection for students that have approved accommodations. So yes, students that have an approved accommodation will get a time slot. They can create a roommate group and they will be choosing their own space. The only little caveat to this is students that have approved accommodations will actually be selecting their rooms at the very beginning of the process. They actually select before program communities. So we will be reaching out to you to let you know what your time slot is. This is brand new. We've been testing it pretty extensively. When you log in to self-select, the only spaces that you will be able to see are those spaces that match the accommodations that you have been given by disability services. So um, if you fall into this category, we would love to hear your feedback after the process to hear how it went for you. Um, we are excited for this opportunity for both our students with approved accommodations and with program communities. So yeah, we're just excited that you have more ownership over where you're going to live rather than where we're just going to plop you. So
That's so exciting.
I know.
Last question, and we kind of went over it a little earlier, but as a first year student who is currently living in Gregory College House, will they have the option to retain their room for this year's application or not?
They will not, because room retention is only available for rising third and fourth year students. Um, and we've already sent emails out to students who their rooms are eligible to be retained. Uh, there is a likelihood that when the student logs in during the return to house process, which they would be eligible for, that their room is still available and they can select it. It's just they would not be able to get it through the retain room process.
And if they return to house this year and then are still in Gregory, they can retain for the next year if they'd like.
As long as a program community is not accepted for Gregory, then yes.
Some things change year to year.
Yes.
I will, first of all, thank you to our presenters, Melissa, Ted, and Trina. This has been wonderful. Thank you to all of our attendees. I hope that you have found all of this information valuable. We are going to wrap up. I will also remind you that has been recorded. It will be posted to the Residential Services website, and it will be linked in one of our future emails. If you have questions that have not been answered tonight, please utilize the contact information on the screen right now. Our teams will be monitoring their inboxes over the next couple of weeks and trying to answer as many of your questions as possible. Once again, thank you all. Have a lovely evening, and we're looking forward to seeing you on campus next year.